Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Hello, Sarah, are you here?
Hello, yes, I'm here, ready.
Hello, thanks for joining. Shall we kick off? So let's start. My name is Angela Ning, the General Manager of IAE Global London office. And IAE Global is a leading provider of international student recruitment. Today, we are presenting Discover 3D-based creative courses with us, University Bournemouth. So it's our pleasure to welcome Sarah Charles here, who is the Senior International Officer from AUB, to be our presenters today. Hi, Sarah.
Hello, thanks, Angela.
So just a little bit housekeeping before we get started. Could you please all mute yourself during the webinar? If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the chat box in your Zoom control panel. I will bring them up during the webinar, and also we will have some time for the question at the end. A recorded version of this webinar will be available later as well. So let me kick off from a quick introduction about our company. IAE Global is started as a single office in Seoul, South Korea. Over 28 years, IAE Global has become one of the largest and the most diverse student recruitment organizations in the world. We have become an industry leader in the international student recruitment. Sorry, I just admit somebody in. So we have a border-based presence in major student orientation countries from China, India, Japan, Korea, Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, Nepal, and also other key markets around the world, as well as the destination countries where our partners institutions are located, like US, UK, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and also other major destination countries. The scale and the international reach of our network means we can offer recruitment experts in a variety of countries. It also means that we have a very close relationship and also better knowledge of the institutions our students attended. So like us, University Bournemouth. Here is our London office contact details. So please feel free to contact us after this webinar. If you are outside of the UK, we are happy to provide our local offices details to you. So please also contact us if you can. So now, without any further ado, I will turn the time over to Sarah. Sarah, just let you know, if you are the host, and please note, there's some new guests coming, so you just need to admit them in. It will have a notice on the screen, so you can just let them in directly.
Okay, so it'll pop up and I'll just say yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thanks, Angela.
Still have somebody just asking to get enter, so I'm sure there are more and more coming. Okay. Right, so your time.
Okay, I'm hoping everybody can hear me. Angela, can you hear me?
Yes, very clearly.
See me? Can everybody see me?
Yeah.
Good. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. It's a beautiful sunny day down here in Bournemouth, so I hope it's sunny wherever you are, or has been sunny wherever you are in the world. My name, as Angela said, is Sarah Charles, and I am a Senior International Officer now at the Arts University Bournemouth. But I have for many years been an academic. I was course leader for the fashion programme here at Arts University Bournemouth for a number of years. And I've taught internationally as well. So I can speak with you about all things creative, your study and your career ambitions. So do ask any questions. There's never a silly question. Do ask me at the end of the presentation. But for now, we're going to be talking about 3D courses based at Arts University Bournemouth, who are a specialist art, design, media and performance university in the UK. Right, I'm going to share my screen now, so hopefully that's going to work, and we'll run through a presentation which will last around 25 minutes. There will be time for questions at the end, so say do note them down or put them in the chat box, and we can answer them at the end. Okay, so great picture to start with here, this giant donut. And basically 3D courses, quite simply, are something that's not flat, a bit like this donut. It can be freestanding, like a sculpture, perhaps in a sculpture park, in a museum or gallery, or it can be something that's just raised from the surface, like collage perhaps. You may have done some at school or college, just raised from the paper. It can be an installation or even wearable fashion, anything that isn't flat. A brief introduction to Arts University Bournemouth. As I mentioned, this is where I'm from. We are the #1 creative specialists in the UK. We've been doing it for a long time, so over 130 years we've been studying art, design, media. And recently we introduced performance as well. So we really are this creative community of just under 4,000 students on one campus from all over the world, around 55 countries coming and growing. We're located in a very popular tourist destination called Bournemouth on the south coast of England, with beautiful beaches, lovely countryside, but we have the advantage of only being a couple of hours from London, and also really close to some other amazing places in the UK like Bath and Oxford and Stonehenge, if those places are inspiring for you. Around 83% of our students are local students, but don't forget, local also means from all over the UK. So from Scotland, from Nottingham, from Liverpool, from Cornwall, they all come together on our campus. And then about 17% are overseas students or international students. And those students bring such a rich variety of influences and inspiration. They're a really valued part of the university community. These things are important for some students, but I would suggest don't use them as a basis for making your decisions about university. Arts University are very proud to say we have been recently voted the UK's top specialist art and design university by the Good University Guide. We're one of the top 50 for graduate job prospects. That was last year in 2020. We've retained TEF Gold, which is about the teaching excellence at the university, which means our technicians and our teachers are really excellent at what they do. Over 93% of our graduates within 6 months are in either employment, full-time employment, or further study after they've graduated. And more than 60% of those students are in highly skilled positions of employment. So the skills that they've learned whilst they've been at university have prepared them really well to go out into the working world. The things we pride ourselves on most and the reasons we manage to achieve those amazing awards are based around the quality of our courses. Hang on, I'm just letting somebody in. The quality of our courses, the links we have with industry. We have lots of really live links with industry projects. We often have speakers who come into the university. In fact, next week, we have an amazing careers week where we have the likes of Edgar Wright coming in to talk about film and other amazing industry speakers coming in to talk with students or speaking virtually like this with students. We have a wide range of practical subjects, so you have plenty to choose from in 3D. We focus on the subject of your choice, so for 3 years you will be really really diving deeply into that subject, or generalist degree where you study lots of different things. It is a great opportunity to study with creative professionals, not just on campus, but from all over the world. We're a very welcoming small university. We're multicultural and a multinational environment. So let's start. What is design? Let's ask us that question first of all. It's more than just creating. It's more than just creating more stuff. And that's one of the things the world really doesn't need anymore, is more stuff put out there. So what design does is it envisions, it plans, and it creates objects, systems, interactive systems, buildings, vehicles. The list goes on and we'll talk about some of the areas and the courses and the products. You'll see some beautiful products during the course of the presentation of the sorts of things that design is. But, and perhaps this is quite a crucial thing here, the design thinking approach changed fairly recently. It's now much more user-centered, and users are right at the heart of the design thinking approach. So it's become much more human-centered. It's about creating solutions for people, people's needs, whether they're physical or perhaps more abstract systems that address and help to solve a need or a problem. And hopefully you agree that at the moment, we certainly need that. 3D design and design work can include two-dimensional subjects as well as three-dimensional subjects, but graphics, manufacturing, industrial manufacturing, furniture, architecture, fashion, film, television, the list really does go on. And you can see there on the right, there's a triangle of how design solutions are resolved. Screens are frozen. 1 minute. It does this sometimes. Okay, so let's think about what degrees at Arts University design is included in, and particularly 3D design for this presentation. So undergraduate degrees at Arts University that include three-dimensional design, you can see in this list. So there's architecture, design as a pure form, fashion, graphic design, interior architecture and design, model making, performance, film and costume, textiles and visual communication. So any one of those subjects will include three-dimensional design as part of the course. You can see here some great equipment and state-of-the-art technology that's included at the Arts University that students have access to. In our workshops, they use it for problem solving, to develop their technical skills. The courses are very outward facing, and all of this equipment is equipment that you will experience out in industry as well. It's updated regularly, and we invest heavily in the technology to make sure that you're ready for when you go out to work. So these are the programs that include design, architecture and interior architecture. Perhaps there are students out there who are interested in these subjects. BA Honours Architecture is a 3-year degree. A Master of Architecture is a 2-year degree. So architecture is one of those subjects that you need to study the Masters in order to become an architect. We are AUB and RIBA accredited, which is really important. So if you are interested in architecture, make sure that wherever you study, they have those standards. There are trips to the Venice Biennale, London, of course, in galleries, Barcelona, Rome, Paris and Berlin. And we're really hoping that some of those trips will be able to take place next year. You have access to all those amazing 3D workshops that I was just showing you, as well as manual and digital manufacturing equipment. So it's not just about the high tech, it's also about building things with your hands, using materials, experimenting with materials, and how they work with your design. There's lots of opportunity for collaboration, weekly guest lectures, and there's an initiative called AUB Advantage, which is included in all our courses and is a real creative community for students. And then there's interior architecture. Perhaps you're more interested in the space that pieces occupy. Or perhaps you're interested in sustainability issues for either of these subjects. Maybe you're interested in recycling and recommunication of pieces, structures, or environments. There are opportunities in interior architecture to do extended work placements, and either course has dedicated design studios with equipment ready for students to use. The course is recognised by European of Interior Architects as one of the top courses in the UK and Europe. And these are some of the careers that students go on to achieve. Now, they might not be the ones that you necessarily associate with interior design and architecture. There are, of course, things like architectural design, but there's also things like quantity surveyors, freelance assistants. In interior design, there are 3D visualizers, assistant designers, architectural designers, lighting designers. So you can see already the variety of jobs and careers that students go on to achieve, even though they've come from the same basis, the same course. BA Honours Design is a fairly new course, and this really does focus on this idea of solving real life problems. It's very human-centred. More than just, as I said in the introduction, about creating more stuff. It's about strategic thinking, about research and experimenting with materials and forms, exploring the processes physically and digitally. And physical or digital is fine. If digital design is what you're into, then that's absolutely fine too. So it's about design thinking. It's about communicating two-dimensional pieces, but in a three-dimensional form. 3D design is realized through prototyping, using that machinery, that equipment that we showed in the last slide, and they complement other courses which we'll talk about in a minute, like model making, very specialist niche course, architecture, and fashion courses as well, fashion and costume. Speaking of fashion, here you can see an example of one of the live projects that students took part in with Vivienne Westwood. We have very strong links with this designer. And in fact, students worked from the Vivienne Westwood studios who visited the campus regularly and spoke with students and worked with students on their designs in the fashion studio workshops. And each student had the opportunity to produce one piece from this collection that you can see here, which was shown as part of the Fashion Week locally in Bournemouth. So the fashion course, like all the other courses at Arts University, allows you to build a portfolio of skills. Now, these skills are not just necessarily specifically related to one area, and you can see here, you can choose to complete your degree in one of the named awards here. So if design is what you want, then design you can focus on, but perhaps you're more technically orientated. We have an amazing computer system, CAD system, which students really take to, and it allows the three-dimensional design of fashion products, but on screen. Perhaps menswear is something you're really interested in, and you can specialize in that. Or maybe it's product design. And in the workshops, we sometimes have students working on prototypes for shoes and bags and jewellery and accessories. We do have this reputation across all the courses, but particularly in fashion and photography, for producing industry-ready graduates, graduates who are ready to hit the floor running once they get into that industry and really make a difference. Fashion won the gold medal at Graduate Fashion Week in 2018. And here are some great images across the board from different courses, perhaps in photography, in architecture, model making, of students' work, and that you can see the type and variety of work that students are producing and the hands-on approaches that we take. Graphic design isn't one of those subjects that you would necessarily associate with 3D, but they're very keen on you finding new ways to communicate or educate, entertain, persuade your audience. And this may include using three-dimensional forms of graphic design. So experimentation, again, is really important values on the course. There really isn't any right or wrong answer. You're able throughout your 3 years to find your own path as you learn and develop skills. You find your own approach to visual problem solving, and you graduate with this solid technical, but also critical and conceptual skills that are really highly prized by the industry, because you can adapt to jobs, to the careers, the challenge that we're all facing today. You're frozen again. I mentioned model making earlier, and you can see here this picture is a fantastic model of a space dog. And what model making do is they make high quality models across a wide range of creative industries, from models that you can see here, but also things like Formula One. Some students make medical models for students to look at body parts. They test or communicate the designs of products. Perhaps they're working for armory or museum or galleries, or, as I mentioned, maybe vehicles, or perhaps buildings. We'll probably see in towards the end of the presentation some models of buildings. They can also work with the film and television or costume and theatre students, creating make-believe worlds in films, so little film sets and designs. They work with museums, exhibitions, and in advertising to create amazing exhibits for different companies. So really specialist area, quite niche, but if you like building and using your hands and really focusing on that idea of making models, then this is a great career for you. And the demand for model makers is very high. I do know that for this course, some years they have 100% employment rate, which is pretty impressive. And you can see here some examples of those things I was talking about. So the set design there with the cat overlooking, the model bottom left looks like a prosthetics piece, and then a more traditional style model at the top left there of the battleship. So these are the sorts of jobs that model makers go on to achieve. They can, of course, go on and become model makers. But also they can use designers, prototype technicians, modelers, or costumers. So again, lots of variety. And on the right there is in actual fact an architectural model that I was talking about before. So lots of diversity, but a real niche market if you love to make things. And here's some pictures of the studios of model makers in their studio, building and working on their prototypes, and getting along very well by the looks of it. So BA Honours Visual Communication. Now this is a broad discipline which has some similarities with graphics, but it incorporates other areas as well, like illustration, typography, screen-based design. So you may spend time in the screen printing room at Arts University, which is a fantastic resource for all our students. It really does explore that interface between and the overlap between analog and digital technologies. So if you're not quite certain of whether it's 2D or 3D, this is a great choice for you. They look very much at traditional craft medias and processes, but also combine that with digital developments. And you can see here an example on the right of this fantastic T-shirt, which incorporates this idea of tradition, craft, but also digital. Worth mentioning, of course, also, some of you may be considering master's programs after you've finished your undergraduate award. And you can see here the courses that focus very much on the three-dimensional side in masters. We have that architecture masters that I mentioned, a design and innovation, digital fashion innovation, graphic design, and historical costume. So well worth having a look at where these can take you. They are just 1 year, although the Master of Architecture is 2. So what do all those courses that I've been talking about have in common? This is a list of things, of the skills and the attributes that you will have if you study a 3D design related course. So innovation is built into all of those courses. You will constantly be pushed, constantly be looking at new ways to innovate and introduce new useful things, human-centered design to the market. Creativity is in huge demand by employers at the moment, and is seen as one of the things that will get us out of a lot of the things that are happening at the moment. So if you have a creative approach, it can be applied not just to art and design, but also other areas. We have students who go on to work in banking or perhaps in local councils, pushing forward ideas, ways of doing things, perhaps creative innovation. The reason they're able to do this is they have this fantastic ability to have attention to detail. As well as that, teamwork is a really important part of what we do. At Arts University Bournemouth, we collaborate a lot with not just each other within the course, but also with students across other courses. You will often find students in model making working with costume students or filmmaking students. You'll find makeup students perhaps working with fashion students on promoting or putting together a fashion show. So communication is a big part of what students do as well. Not just presenting your work in a confident way, but also being able to pitch ideas and those creative innovations that you're thinking about. And strategic thinking is vital also in everything that you do. You can't just come up with an idea, you have to think about where this idea fits in, what's the basis of this idea, and what's the concept behind it. So all really valuable skills going forward. I mentioned employability earlier, and Arts University are very proud of these statistics. We were #1 as a specialist university for employability a couple of years ago. I mentioned the employment of over 93% and the graduates in highly skilled roles. We were first place for career prospects in these subjects, so in fashion, textiles, film, and photography. I also mentioned at the start there, next week we have this fantastic Creative Futures Festival going on, which features experts from across a wide range of creative industries, not just our graduates who will also be joining us and alumni, but also people like the head of fashion, Lisa Armstrong at The Telegraph, and CNN's lead motion graphics designer, Alex Sears, talking about careers in publishing and journalism. And this is all going out live to students next week as part of this week-long Creative Futures Festival. A lot of the information you've seen about jobs and careers is taken from our own website and our own successes, but this is a really helpful website to look at if you're interested in a creative career, called Prospects. And what this does is it gives you profiles on careers. You can put in what your interests are, and then it will throw out some ideas as to what sorts of careers you could perhaps investigate, and courses as well, and tells you what it's like to work as a professional, perhaps in graphics or model making. It will also show you related professions. So if you're not quite certain, it's a really good place to start looking. It will also show you typical types of employers. So companies that are employing creative graduates. So have a look if you have time. Here's some great shots of Bournemouth in the middle there. We do have lovely beaches, as I mentioned, and today looks a bit like that today. There are also some views of our library on the right-hand side there, the architecture studio on the top left, and on the bottom left is one of our drawing studios. Teaching and learning, as I mentioned, we win awards for, and it is as varied as our courses. The types of learning and teaching that you would be used to at the Arts University are things like workshops, as you would expect, seminars and lectures, which at the moment, of course, are remote. But we're hoping in the next couple of weeks there is a staged, planned return to campus for a lot of our students, for the third year and foundation students, which is really exciting for us. There will also be individual and group tutorials, so you would be given one-to-one time with teachers, but also work with groups of other students. Amina, could you mute yourself, please? All right, I'll do it. There's also lots of work experience. As I mentioned in the presentation, you will have the opportunity to do live projects, but as well as that, courses like events management have 6-week-long placements, as do textiles, who all have great links with local and international textile companies. Of visits to exhibitions, although perhaps you've been able to do some of those remotely during the last few months. And of course, at the end of the year, there's our amazing summer shows, which all students get to exhibit in. I've mentioned collaboration in the presentation, and it is across the course, but also throughout all the student body. Students often have meetings in canteens, in the library, and then they do have these informal collaborations and teamwork and networking, which really prepares you well for when you need to go out into the industry and perhaps set up those valuable networks and career networks with industry. Now, the reason we do that is because it enhances your understanding of working practice, because the creative industries really do rely on that teamwork and networking. So it mirrors what's happening out there in the creative industries and gets you used to that way of working, as well as building your own professional networks and future industry links. Industry collaboration is important for all our courses, and this happens through placements, as I've mentioned, and industry coming to campus, like that festival I mentioned that's happening next week, live briefs, networking events, and then our graduate and summer shows, which we're all online this year, and I do encourage you to have a look at those shows because they really were fantastic. Just briefly, this is how to apply for our courses. For the foundation and for the master's programs, you apply to us direct. Just go onto the website, put in your qualifications. You can always get in touch with us if you have any trouble with your application. And then there's that personal statement that you need to write in order to tell us about what you're interested in and what sorts of influences and inspiration you have on your work and what you hope to study. For the BA, you apply either through UCAS, you can apply direct to AUB as well. And for most courses, we will expect to see a portfolio, a digital portfolio for this year and probably next. And these portfolios will show examples of your work, both finished, work in progress. What we want to see is work that demonstrates your interest and skills in that particular subject. There are some really great portfolio guidelines for every single one of our courses if you have a look on the website. And in fact, I'm able to offer one-to-one advice on portfolios. If you'd like to, I'll put my link in the chat box at the end, and you can always get in touch and we can have a chat about your own portfolio and creative interests. Speaking of portfolios, as I said, we lead them for many of our courses, but not all of our courses. So do check the website to make sure before you go to all that hard work that a portfolio is needed. This is just a brief example of the sorts of things to include, and you can see some pictures on the right there of students who've used different ways to show us their work. So a mixture of 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional work that perhaps you want to photograph, around 15 to 20 pieces. It can be digital, it can be graphic, drawings, sculptures, animation, 3D or 2D work, as I've mentioned. We like to see specific interests, but also general interests, so we get a good picture or window into your world, where you are at the moment and where you want to go next. We love to see sketchbooks, and they often give us that context of what you want to study and how you work and where your ideas come from. So do include those if you can, because they often support the finished pieces. If you keep a digital sketchbook, that's absolutely fine too. Do make sure when you present it that it's seen alongside the finished pieces. These are some comments that were given by faculty who've been looking at portfolios for quite a long time. The best portfolios really do demonstrate your unique voice and personality. They're finished to a good degree, but remember, we do want to see that raw process. And if you have a piece that you're particularly keen to show and it's unfinished, then put that in too. Good quality images are always useful when presenting your work, as are editing and organizing your work. So it has a good flow. Make a good start and a good finish. So you start with a wow and you finish with a memorable piece. It's good to know what the pieces are about, because of course you've worked hard on them, but we don't always know what those pieces have, what the journey is that you've taken. So do put some thoughtful explanations about the content, or perhaps the medium. Perhaps you've experimented with different types of materials and mediums. I know you're probably interested to see scholarships and bursaries that are available at the university. And these are just an example of some of the scholarships that have been made available this year. So there's a Vice Chancellor Scholarship, and you can see there are different amounts depending on the level you're coming in at. There are progression bursaries, alumni or family bursaries, short courses, perhaps if you've taken a short course or plan to take a short course, and then mature student bursaries. All these details can be found on the website if you have a look at the link, which I can share with you at the end. So these are my contact details. I hope you've enjoyed the presentation. There's so much more I could tell you about. Each course, I could spend half an hour talking about each one, and we have over 23 of them, so we could be here all day. But hopefully that's given you an insight into the sorts of things that we do at Arts University Bournemouth. I'm going to open up the chat box now. Do ask any questions. I'm happy to answer them. I really am. Yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed it, and do get in touch if you have any questions.
Thank you, Sarah.
Pleasure.
So can you please just type your questions here if you got any? Or if you are too shy, you can also personal message me.
Or if you're very brave, you could actually put your camera on.
Yeah.
While we're waiting, I might put that link in for my for any appointments if anybody would like to have a talk maybe after the session.
So while we are waiting, I have a questions here. Well,
Yes.
there's one question coming out actually. Can university accept 3 to 4 years of study gap for bachelor degree?
Do you mean
I think that means somebody maybe graduated from the high school and then got 3 to 4 years maybe working experience and then study gap, and then they still apply for the bachelor degree?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. When you've been out of school or college for a while, you bring life experience, which is really valuable. So yes, absolutely. You could even consider, it's not compulsory to have a bachelor before you do a master's. Now, I don't know your circumstances, but I mean, for example, if you've been working in a creative design business for 3 or 4 years, you could have the skills necessary to perhaps do a master's. So yes, definitely.
Thank you. There's another question here. What is the entry requirement for India?
The best thing to do, I'll have a quick look on the website and I'll put the link. We have, for every country, we have specific entry requirements, but we do have a wonderful senior officer in India. She's in Goa at the moment, but normally she's based in Delhi. So I will put the specific link for requirements in the chat box, if that's all right. It's probably easier than me going through them.
But just for general information, for the bachelor degree and the master degree, what is the IELTS entry requirement for the international student?
5.5.
5.5 in total as well.
Yeah, and I think 5. Oh gosh, no, I need to check this. Hang on a minute. Sorry, Angela. Let me check. Should have a slide up there, shouldn't I, with entry requirements? Right, entry qualifications. I'm just looking at it now. Bear with me, everybody. Right. Apply through entry.
It's just an exam for you.
Sorry, it is like an exam for me,
yes.
Right, what I could do is I could share the screen and share where I'm looking. That might be quite good. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is on the website and it's just, you know, apply for undergraduate here. As I mentioned, you can apply through UCAS, you can apply direct or an agent. So lots of different ways you can apply. The entry requirements are here. So all applicants must have level 3 qualifications, 1 creative subject, looking at 112 to 120 UCAS tariff points. There's a list there of different qualifications that are acceptable. And here we have qualifications by country. So let me check here. India, there we are, 65% 12 standards, various different ones there. Doesn't mention anything about IELTS, does it? IB qualification there. English language requirement, let's go here. So there we are. And there's a list there which will tell you, will answer frequently asked questions. English language requirement, and you need a visa. Okay, does it specifically?
So I think that's called I need a visa, study undergraduate degree. Maybe that one.
That one.
Yeah.
Let's try that one.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Okay, there we are.
IELTS 6.
You read that quicker than I did.
Yeah, so that's IELTS 6 and the 5.5 minimum for each brand.
Right, yeah, that's where I got the 5.5 from. So,
yeah.
So apologies, it's 6 with 5.5 in each band. Yeah, so 6 overall, but 5.5 in each band. And that's for the BAs. It is different for the foundation and for the masters. We can look at that if you like.
Yeah,
but
maybe we can have a look for the master one.
Yeah.
I need a visa for a postgraduate degree.
Yeah.
So that's the last line. Just under the undergraduate one.
Oh, sorry.
Still good. Yeah, that's the one.
Well done, Angela. Talk me through it. Talk me through it.
Yeah, that's 6.5 and with no section lower than 5.5. A little bit higher, but
a little, yes.
But
yeah.
It is the standard entry requirement for most of the UK universities, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's one more question here. If a student is studying one of your bachelor degree program or master's degree program, how many days he or she has to study per week?
Okay, so creative students work very hard. It's a myth if anybody thinks that a creative student doesn't, mainly because we love what we do. It depends on the subject, but on average, I would say in your first year, you're looking at about 4 days a week, because you have one day that is your research day or study day. As you progress through the course, the contact time, in university might get less, depending again on the course. If you're in fashion, you're probably in more in your third year than you are in your first year, because you're using the studios. But if it's something like graphics and you have the software, you may be able to work from home. But I would say for 4 days a week in your first year, maybe 3 days contact in your second year, and you're independent in your third year, but 2 to 3 days contact time in your third year.
Right, understood. Yeah, thank you. I got a message from one of the audience asking, is it the international foundation compulsory for the bachelor degree?
No, the foundation is not compulsory for the bachelor degrees. Entry is really based on not just the language, but the portfolio. So if you have a good portfolio, which is focused on the subject area, no, you don't, it's not compulsory. You don't have to do one. And as I say, I can talk to you about your portfolio if you get in touch with me. More than happy to talk to you about that, and whether or not you might need one. Happy to do that.
Thank you. I If I'm not wrong, actually, I remember you said you offer students some placement or internship during their study, like six months time. So during that study, and is it the students still need to pay any admin fees or tuition fees, things like that? So how it works? Say if a student studying 3 years bachelor degree, so when it will be their time to go for the placement?
It was 6 weeks, Angela, not six.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. That's fine. 6 months would probably be more like a sandwich course, which we don't do, where students go out and sort of take a gap year to work. Although in architecture, they do that. So in architecture, you would study the 3-year undergraduate, you would go out into industry for a year and work experience, and you don't pay anything then, you're working. And then come back for the 2-year masters. So that's one example. But the other placements are a matter of weeks, 2 weeks or 6 weeks, unless students take part in placements in the summer holidays, which are quite long. So that would depend on their situation. You're not expected to pay for accommodation when you're not there in the summer holidays. It goes from term time to term time sort of thing.
Yeah, understood. Thank you. Any more questions? It looks like you cover a lot of information, so that's why there's not a lot of questions here.
Good.
There's one question here. Is there any block system in bachelor degree, like 1 unit per month?
No, the teaching and learning doesn't really work like that. It's not, I mean, in the first year, you learn technical skills, you learn the basics, you learn about concepts, you learn about, the skills you need to build to go into your second year, and then your second year into your third year. So it's not really units per month. We don't have exams. It's an ongoing educational experience. So it's not really done in blocks. I think that's what you mean. You learn skills as you go. I hope you see that one.
Understood. Thank you. So I think we cover a lot today. And before we wrap up, do you want to end up anything like scholarship, like the early bird discount, things like that? Do you offer things like that?
Yes, there was a slide all about scholarships, and they are increasing all the time and changing all the time. So it's always worth having a look on the website, getting in touch with us if you have any specific requirements. Do email us. We are a small university, so we're more than happy for you to get in touch. We really get to know our students on an individual basis. We're all on one campus. We really are a community of makers. So do get in touch if there's any questions about scholarships or anything that you particularly are interested in. Do get in touch.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. So
Pleasure.
Thank you, everybody. I think that's the end of presentation today. And we appreciate you are here. So thank you very much and have a good day.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.